The alarm bells rang across Colony 7 like the screams of dying children. Captain Lee Do-hyun pressed his face against the cold metal wall of the storage facility where he worked. Through the small window he could see the Vorthak ships floating, in the sky like giant black stones. Their weapons were already charging with that terrible blue light he had learned to fear. Do-hyun was 35 years old and had spent every day of his adult life as a slave. The Galactic Council called humans workers, but everyone knew the truth. Humans dug in the mines. Humans cleaned the alien ships. Humans died in the dangerous jobs that other species would not do. The Council had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years, and they had ruled humans for 200. "Get away from the window," whispered Park So-jin. She was a small woman with clever eyes who worked in the medical bay. The aliens let her treat sick humans because it kept them working longer. "They will see you." Do-hyun did not move. He watched as the Vorthak soldiers marched through the streets of the human settlement. They wore thick armor and carried energy, weapons that could burn a hole through a person. Their faces looked like the heads of insects with large black eyes and clicking mouths. Behind them walked other alien species, the tall, thin Nexari with their 4 arms, the rock-like Gorvani, who moved slowly but could crush a human with 1 hand. "This is different," Do-hyun said quietly. "They usually just take workers. Look at their weapons." So Jin came to the window. Her face went white when she saw what the soldiers were carrying. These were not the simple control weapons they used to keep humans in line. These were military weapons. Weapons for killing. In the distance they heard the first screams. Commander Kim Tae-ho had been hiding in the underground tunnels when the ships arrived. He was the leader of a small group of humans who tried to help families escape when the aliens became too cruel. They called themselves the Underground, and the Council had been hunting them for years. Now Tae-ho crawled through the metal pipes that carried water to the settlement. He could hear the sounds of battle above. But this was not a battle. This was a slaughter. He reached the main tunnel and found 12 other humans waiting for him. They were all thin and dirty from years of hard labor. Most had scars from alien punishment devices. All of them had fear in their eyes. "What is happening up there?" asked Yun-Nari. She was young, maybe 20, but she understood alien machines better than anyone Tae-ho had ever met. The Council did not know how smart she was. They thought she was just another worker. "The human culling has started," Tae-ho said. The words felt like poison in his mouth. "The Council has decided there are too many of us." The group went silent. They had heard rumors about the culling for months. Some aliens thought humans were breeding too fast. They said human settlements were getting too large. They said humans might become dangerous if their numbers grew. "How many?" asked an old man named Kang Jae-wook. He had been a soldier on Earth before the Council took over. His hands still remembered how to fight even though he was over 60. "All of us," Tae-ho said. "Every human settlement in this sector. They want to reduce our population by half." Above them, the screaming got louder. Do-hyun and So-jin had moved deeper into the storage building. The Vorthak soldiers were going house to house now. They would drag out families and shoot them in the streets. Children, old people. It did not matter. "We have to do something," Do-hyun said. His hands were shaking with anger. "What can we do?" So-jin replied. "We have no weapons, no ships. The Council has made sure of that." Do-hyun looked around the storage room. It was full of mining equipment, heavy tools, cutting devices, explosive charges for breaking rocks. The aliens never worried about humans having these things. They were just tools for work. "Maybe we do have weapons," he said slowly. Through the walls they could hear the Vorthak getting closer. The sound of their metal boots on the ground. The hum of their energy weapons. The crying of human voices. Do-hyun picked up a plasma cutter. It was designed to slice through metal ore, but it would cut through alien armor just as well. So-jin stared at him. "You want to fight them?" "I want to live," Do-hyun said, "and I want them to pay for what they are doing." The door to the storage room exploded inward. 3 Vorthak soldiers stepped inside, their weapons ready. They saw 2 humans and relaxed slightly. Humans always ran or begged. They never fought. Do-hyun activated the plasma cutter and swung it in a wide arc. The blade of superheated energy cut through the first soldier's armor like paper. The alien made a sound like breaking glass and fell to the floor. The second soldier raised his weapon, but Sojin had grabbed a container of industrial acid. She threw it at the alien's face. The Vorthak screamed and clawed at his melting helmet. The third soldier fired his weapon, but Do-hyun was already moving. He had learned to be fast during his years in the mines. The energy blast missed him and burned a hole in the wall. Do-hyun drove the plasma cutter into the alien's chest. "We did it," Sojin whispered, staring at the 3 dead Vorthak. "We actually killed them." Do-hyun was already moving to the weapons the aliens had dropped. He had never held a real energy rifle before, but the design was simple enough. Point and fire. "This is just the beginning," he said. In the tunnels below, Taeho had made a decision. The underground had spent years helping humans hide from the council. Now it was time to help them fight. "Nari," he said to the young woman, "can you change the mining explosives? Make them more powerful?" She nodded. "Give me an hour and some spare parts. Jaewook, you trained soldiers on Earth. Can you train workers to be fighters?" The old man smiled for the first time in years. "Give me people who want to live, and I will make them into an army." Above them, the killing continued, but in the darkness below, something new was being born. For 200 years, humans had obeyed the council. They had worked in the mines and factories. They had been grateful for the food they were given. They had accepted their place as the lowest species in the galaxy. That was ending today. Do-hyun and Sojin fought their way through the settlement, gathering other humans who had found weapons. Most of the Vorthak soldiers were not prepared for resistance. They had expected to kill helpless workers. Instead, they found humans with mining lasers, explosive charges, and nothing left to lose. The battle for Colony 7 lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the human settlement was destroyed. Most of the people were dead. But something important had happened. For the first time since the council took over Earth, humans had fought back, and they had won. Do-hyun stood in the ruins of his home, holding a Vorthak energy rifle. Around him, 50 other humans had survived. They were wounded and tired, but they were alive. "What now?" asked Sojin. Do-hyun looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the council was planning to kill more humans. On hundreds of worlds, his people were being treated like animals. "Now we fight," he said. "We fight until every human in the galaxy is free." The Terra Liberation Front was born in the ashes of Colony 7, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 years had passed since the massacre at Colony 7. The small group of survivors led by Lee Do-hyun had grown into something the Galactic Council had never seen before. Humans were fighting back across the galaxy, and they were winning. Admiral Choi Min-ho stood on the bridge of the stolen Council warship that humans now called Freedom's Edge. He had once been a student at the Council's Naval Academy, one of the few humans allowed to study military science. The Council had thought they were being generous by training him. They never imagined he would use that knowledge against them. "Report," Min-ho said to the bridge crew. All of them were human now. When he had stolen this ship 2 years ago, it had been operated by a dozen different alien species. Now humans ran every system, and they ran it better than the aliens ever had. 17 more ships have joined our fleet, reported engineer Yoon Nari. She had changed a lot since the underground days. Now she wore the uniform of a fleet engineer, and her modifications to human ships had become legendary. The mining vessel from Kepler Station brought 50 new fighters with them. Min-ho nodded. The humans were using every ship they could get. Old mining vessels became assault ships, transport shuttles became bombers. Even civilian pleasure craft were turned into fighters. The aliens had better ships, but humans had better ideas. "What about our target?" Min-ho asked. "Kepler Station is heavily defended," said Sergeant Kang Jae-wook. The old soldier had become Min-ho's ground combat specialist. 40 ships, energy shields, and 10,000 alien troops. But, Nari added with a smile, they are not expecting us to attack it. Minho walked to the main display screen. Kepler Station was the Council's military headquarters for this entire sector. It was a massive structure built inside an asteroid, with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The Council thought it was impossible to attack. That was exactly why Do-hyun had chosen it as their target. On the planet below Kepler Station, Captain Oh Sung-min was leading his team through the underground maintenance tunnels. They had been crawling through these pipes for 8 hours, and their mission was simple: disable the station's main power core. "How much farther?" whispered one of his soldiers, a young woman named Jin Min Seo. Seung Min checked his stolen alien scanner. 200 meters. Stay quiet." The team moved forward carefully. Above them, they could hear the sounds of alien soldiers walking around. The Council had thousands of troops on Kepler Station, but they were all watching the sky for attacking ships. None of them were watching the tunnels below. This was how humans fought now. While the aliens expected big battles with organized fleets, humans attacked from unexpected directions. They used stealth instead of strength. They were smart instead of powerful. Seung-min's team reached the main power junction. Nari had taught them how to recognize alien technology and how to break it in ways that would cause the most damage. "Plant the charges here, here, and here," Seung-min said quietly. "When that power core explodes, the whole station will go dark." Meanwhile, in space above the station, Minho was preparing his fleet for the main attack. He had 43 ships, all of them human-operated. They were not as big as the Council warships, but they were faster and more creative. "Begin the attack," Minho commanded. The human fleet charged toward Kepler Station from 6 different directions at once. The alien defenders were confused. In all their military training, they had learned to fight enemies who attacked in neat formations. Humans did not fight that way. Some human ships flew straight at the station's weapons, drawing their fire. Others circled around and attacked from the sides. A few small ships actually flew inside the station's shield grid before the aliens could react. "Their shields are down," reported Nari from the engineering station. Far below, Seung-min's team had successfully destroyed the power core. The massive station was now running on emergency power only. "All ships focus your fire on the command section," Minho ordered. The human fleet concentrated their attack on the station's center, where the Council commanders were trying to coordinate their defense. But without their main computers, the aliens were having trouble talking to each other. Different species used different communication systems, and they had always relied on computers to translate. Inside Kepler Station, panic was spreading among the alien troops. The lights were flickering on and off. The artificial gravity was failing in some sections. And now human soldiers were appearing in the corridors, having teleported in from their ships. Jae-wook led the boarding assault through the station's main hallway. The old soldier moved like he was 20 years younger, his stolen energy rifle cutting down any alien who tried to stop him. "Secure the command center," he shouted to his troops. "Take prisoners if you can, but do not let them destroy their computers." The battle inside the station was fierce but short. The alien soldiers were good fighters, but they were not ready for the human style of combat. While aliens followed their training and fought by the rules, humans adapted to each situation. They used whatever weapons they could find. They turned the station's own systems against its defenders. In the main command center, the Council's Supreme Chancellor was trying to send a message for help when human soldiers burst through the doors. Chancellor Vextar was a tall, proud Nexari with 4 arms and skin like blue metal. He had ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 50 years. "Surrender," said Jae-wook, pointing his rifle at the alien's head. "You cannot defeat the Council," Vextar said in his mechanical voice. "We rule 1,000 worlds. You are just one species." "We are the species that refuses to give up," Jae-wook replied. The battle for Kepler Station was over in 4 hours. The humans had captured the most important military base in the sector, and they had done it with fewer than 1,000 soldiers. The cost had been high. Many human ships were destroyed and hundreds of fighters had died, but they had won. Do-hyun arrived on the captured station 6 hours later. He was now the unofficial leader of the Terra Liberation Front, and humans, across the galaxy looked to him for guidance. When he walked into the command center where Chancellor Vexistar was being held prisoner, the alien's eyes widened with surprise. "You," Vexitar said. "You are the one from Colony 7. "I am the one whose family you murdered," Do-hyun replied, calmly. The Chancellor straightened his back, trying to look dignified even as a prisoner. "The Council will never negotiate with terrorists." Do-hyun smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "We are not asking you to negotiate. We are telling you to surrender." He activated the station's communication system. His image and voice were broadcast to every council world in the sector. Billions of aliens watched as a human stood in their most secure military base with their most powerful commander as his prisoner. "People of the galaxy," Do-hyun said, "for too long the Council has ruled through fear and oppression. They have enslaved entire species. They have murdered those who asked for freedom. Today that ends." On worlds across the sector, aliens stared at their screens in shock. Many of them had been oppressed by the Council just like humans. They had been forced to serve species that considered themselves superior. Now they were seeing those same species defeated by the weakest race in the galaxy. "The Terra Liberation Front offers freedom to all species," Do-hyun continued. "Join us and we will build a galaxy where everyone is equal. Refuse and we will continue to fight until every tyrant is gone." The broadcast ended, but its effects spread across the galaxy like fire. On dozens of worlds, oppressed species began to rebel against their council rulers. Ships began defecting to the human fleet. Even some council species began to question whether their leaders were as powerful as they claimed. In the weeks that followed, the human rebellion became something much larger. It became a galactic revolution. The Terra Liberation Front grew from a few thousand fighters to millions of beings from dozens of different species, all united by a simple idea. Everyone deserved to be free. Minho stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as more ships joined their fleet every day. They now had over 300 vessels and the number was growing fast. "Sir," reported Nari, "we are receiving surrender offers from 12 council worlds. They want to join us peacefully." Minho nodded. The humans had learned that winning hearts and minds was just as important as winning battles. When they captured council worlds, they did not enslave the aliens who lived there. Instead, they offered them equality and freedom. "What about the council's main fleet?" Minho asked. "Still regrouping near their capital," Nari replied. "But our spies report that many of their commanders are having doubts. Some want to negotiate." Do-hyun joined them on the bridge. He looked older now, worn down by years of war. But his eyes still held the same determination that had driven him to fight back at Colony 7. "The Council will never surrender easily," he said. "They would rather destroy the galaxy than give up power." "Then we will have to take it from them," Minho replied. Do-hyun nodded. The war was far from over. The Council still controlled most of the galaxy's military power. They still had allies among the proud ancient species who believed in their right to rule. But something fundamental had changed. For the first time in galactic history, beings across the galaxy believed that the Council could be defeated. The war was over, but peace was proving much harder than victory. President Lee Do-hyun stood in what had once been the Council's supreme chamber on their capital world. The massive room was built to make visitors feel small and unimportant. Tall, pillars reached up to a ceiling painted with images of alien gods. The floor was made from rare crystals that cost more than most planets produced in a year. Now it served as the meeting place for the new Galactic Federation, and today it was full of representatives from over 200 different species. They were all talking at once, and most of them were angry. "The hegemony fleet is attacking our trade routes," shouted Ambassador Torvin, a small green creature with 6 eyes. "They destroyed 3 cargo ships yesterday." "My people are starving because the Vorthak have blockaded our system," added Representative Klixana, her snake-like body coiled around her speaking platform. Do-hyun listened to the complaints with growing frustration. It had been 6 months since the Council surrendered, but the former ruling species had not accepted defeat. They had formed something called the hegemony, and we're fighting a guerrilla war against the new Federation. Order, Do-hyun said, his voice carrying across the chamber. We will address each problem in turn. Ambassador Han Yu-jin, the Federation's chief diplomat, stood up at Do-hyun's side. She was a small, quiet woman who had once been a translator for the Council. Now she spoke for dozens of species who had never had a voice in galactic politics before. The Federation fleet is spread thin, Yu-jin explained to the assembly. We are protecting over 300 systems with ships that were never designed for this kind of warfare. Then build more ships, demanded Count Zaris, one of the few former council members who had joined the Federation. His people, the Altarians, were master shipbuilders. With what resources? Replied General Park So-jin from her seat near the front. The former doctor had become the Federation's military commander after showing brilliant tactical skills during the war. Half our manufacturing worlds are under hegemony attack. Do-hyun watched the argument continue and felt tired. He had spent 3 years fighting the Council, dreaming of the day when all species would be free and equal. He had imagined that victory would solve their problems. Instead, it had created new ones. The truth was that running a galaxy was much harder than conquering one. After the meeting, Do-hyun walked through the capital city with his security team. The streets were full of beings from dozens of different worlds. Humans worked alongside four-armed Nexari. Tall, thin Altarians shared food with the rock-like Gorvani. Children from a dozen species played together in the parks. This was what Do-hyun had fought for. A galaxy where everyone was equal, where species could live and work together peacefully. In many ways, it was working better than he had ever hoped. But it was also under attack. Captain Oh Seung-min met Do-hyun at the WAM military headquarters. The young officer had become one of the Federation's best tactical minds, and his reports were always accurate and detailed. The hegemony attacked 4 more systems this week, Seung-min reported as they walked through the command center. They are using hit-and-run tactics, striking our weakest positions and then retreating. How many ships do they have? Do-hyun asked. Our intelligence suggests about 800 vessels, but they are all top-of-the-line Council warships. Each one is worth 10 of our converted civilian craft. Do-hyun studied the tactical display showing the galaxy's current state. The Federation controlled about 60% of known systems, but the hegemony held most of the major military shipyards and manufacturing centers. They were fewer in number but much better equipped. They are trying to strangle us economically, observed General Park So-jin as she joined them. If they can stop trade between our systems, many species will start to question whether the Federation can protect them. Some already are, admitted Yu-jin. I received 3 messages today from worlds asking if they should negotiate separately with the hegemony. This was Do-hyun's greatest fear. The Federation was held together by trust and shared ideals, not fear and force like the old Council. If member species started to believe the Federation was weak, the alliance would fall apart. We need a victory, Do-hyun said finally. Something that shows the galaxy we can protect our people. The hegemony fleet is too strong for a direct assault, So-jin replied. We would lose half our ships. Then we do not attack their fleet, said a new voice from behind them. They turned to see Admiral Choi Min-ho entering the command center. The former council officer had become one of the Federation's most successful military leaders, using his knowledge of alien tactics to defeat his former classmates. Explain, Do-hyun said. Min-ho activated a holographic display showing the hegemony's territory. They are fighting like the old council fought. Big ships, direct attacks, control through fear, but they have a weakness. He highlighted several systems on the map. These are the hegemony's supply bases. They need to refuel and repair their ships somewhere. If we can capture these bases, their fleet will be stranded in deep space. Those bases are heavily defended, Seung-min pointed out. By automated systems and small garrisons, Min-ho replied. The hegemony commanders are all serving with the main fleet. They think like aristocrats. They want to be where the glory is, not guarding supply depots. So-jin smiled. Classic human tactics. Attack where they are not looking. It could work, Do-hyun said slowly. But we would need perfect timing. hit all the bases at once before they can warn each other. Over the next month, the Federation quietly assembled strike forces near each hegemony supply base. They used small, fast ships that could slip through enemy sensors. Human crews worked alongside alien allies who had learned to fight the human way, with creativity and surprise instead of brute force. Engineer Yoon Nari had spent weeks modifying their ships for the mission. She had developed new stealth systems that made Federation vessels nearly invisible to hegemony sensors. She had also created special boarding pods that could cut through the strongest alien armor. Remember, Do-hyun told the strike force commanders during their final briefing, "We are not trying to destroy these bases. We want to capture them intact. The supplies and equipment will be useful, but more importantly, we want to show the galaxy that we can take and hold hegemony territory." The attacks began simultaneously across 12 different systems. Federation ships appeared out of hyperspace, right next to the supply bases, too close for the automated defenses to target effectively. Boarding parties led by human soldiers stormed the facilities while alien allies provided covering fire. The hegemony commanders had expected Federation attacks to come from expected directions, following traditional military doctrine. Instead, human-led forces attacked from every direction at once, using tactics that changed from minute to minute. At the Zirion base, Sergeant Kang Jae-wook led his mixed-species team through corridors filled with automated defense turrets. The old soldier had taught aliens how to fight like humans, moving fast and thinking on their feet. "Smoke grenades," he called out, and his team filled the corridor with dense clouds that confused the base's sensors. While the automated guns fired blindly, the Federation soldiers slipped past them and reached the control room. At the Vortak station, Captain Jin Min Seo used a completely different approach. Her team arrived in ships disguised as supply vessels. When the base's docking bay opened to receive them, her soldiers poured out and captured the entire facility before anyone realized what was happening. The simultaneous attacks were a complete success. All 12 supply bases were captured with minimal casualties, and the Federation now controlled the hegemony's main logistics network. The effect on the galaxy was immediate. News of the victory spread quickly, and systems that had been considering surrender to the hegemony instead sent messages of support to the Federation. More importantly, several hegemony member species began secret negotiations to switch sides. "The hegemony fleet is stranded," reported So-jin during the staff meeting following the attacks. "Without those supply bases, they cannot maintain their ships or feed their crews. Some of their commanders are already requesting permission to surrender," added Yujin. But Do-hyun was not celebrating yet. He knew the hegemony leaders would not give up easily. Proud species like the Vorthak and Nexari would rather die than accept human leadership. "They will try something desperate," he warned his staff. "A cornered enemy is always the most dangerous." He was right. 3 days later, long-range sensors detected something that made everyone's blood run cold. The hegemony's remaining fleet was heading directly for Earth, humanity's homeworld. "They cannot win a military victory," observed Min-ho as they studied the enemy fleet's course. "So they want to hurt us as much as possible before they lose." "How long do we have?" Do-hyun asked. 2 weeks before they reach Earth's system," replied Sung-min. Do-hyun looked around the room at his staff. These people had followed him from the dark days of the rebellion through the chaos of the war to the challenges of building a new government. Now they faced their greatest test. "Recall all Federation fleets," he ordered. "We end this war at Earth." As the meeting broke up and his staff rushed to prepare for the final battle, Do-hyun stood alone in the command center, looking out at the stars. The Battle of Earth had been won, but victory felt hollow as Captain Oh Sung-min stared at the reports flooding his screen. The hegemony fleet had been destroyed, their leaders captured or killed, and the galaxy was finally at peace. Yet something was wrong. "Show me the outer rim data again," Sung-min said to his communications officer aboard the exploration vessel, New Horizon. The holographic display lit up with a map of the galaxy's edge, where Federation survey ships had been exploring, systems that the old council had ignored. Red markers indicated places where their ships had stopped sending reports. 17 systems in the past 2 months. reported Lieutenant Lim Hai-wan, the ship's science officer. All of them just went silent. No distress calls, no requests for help. One day they were there, the next day nothing. Seung-min had seen war. He had watched worlds burn and species die. But this was different. This was like the galaxy itself was being eaten from the edges inward. Could be equipment failure, suggested his pilot, a young human named Kim Dong-min. Those are old survey ships. Maybe they just broke down. All of them, at the same time? Hai-wan shook her head. The mathematical probability is essentially 0. Seung-min made his decision. Set course for the Kepler 442 system. That was our last contact with survey ship Delta 7. As the New Horizon jumped into hyperspace, similar conversations were happening across Federation space. President Do-hyun was receiving reports from dozens of exploration teams. Admiral Minho was analyzing patrol ship logs. Dr. Park So-jin was studying the strange energy readings that some ships had detected before going silent. On the Federation capital world, Dr. Lim Hai-wan's older sister, Dr. Lim Soo-jin, was deep in the Council's old archives. She was a xenoarchaeologist who studied ancient alien civilizations, and she had been given access to files that the Council had kept secret for centuries. There, she whispered to herself as she found the file she was looking for. Project Deep Sleep. The document was written in the old Council script, but Soo-jin had learned to read it during her years studying alien history. As she translated the text, her face went pale. The file described something called the Devourers. According to the ancient records, they were not from this galaxy. They came from the void between galaxies, traveling in massive bioships that could cross impossible distances. Every 50 million years, they would arrive to consume all life in a galaxy before moving on to the next. The last time they came, only a few species survived by hiding in the deepest caves and the most remote systems. The survivors eventually became the founding races of the Galactic Council. They built their civilization on the bones of countless dead worlds. It cannot be real, Soo-jin said to herself. But as she read further, she found detailed sensor logs and even some video recordings from the last encounter. The images showed ships that looked more like living creatures than machines, and weapons that could strip the life from entire planets in hours. The file also contained a warning. The Devourers were not completely gone. They had gone into hibernation somewhere in the dark space between galaxies, waiting for life to grow again so they could return to feed. And according to the calculations in the file, they were due to return soon. Meanwhile, the New Horizon had arrived at the Kepler 442 system. What they found there made even experienced officers like Seung-min feel sick with fear. "Where is the planet?" asked Dong-min in a shaky voice. The system's main world had been completely gone, not destroyed, gone. In its place was a field of strange metallic debris that pulsed with an eerie purple light. The system's star was dimmer than it should have been, as if something had been draining its energy. "Scanning for life signs," reported Hai-wan. Her instruments showed readings that made no sense. "I am detecting biological matter, but it is not organized into any life forms we recognize." "And the survey ship?" "Parts of it are scattered throughout the debris field." "But Captain, look at this." Hai-wan brought up a detailed scan. "The metal has been partially dissolved. Whatever attacked this place, it literally ate the ship." Seung-min activated the ship's emergency beacon. "Send everything we have recorded back to Federation Command, Priority Alpha." Before they could finish transmitting their data, new contacts appeared on their sensors. Ships were emerging from hyperspace around them, but these were like nothing in any Federation database. The vessels looked organic, as if they had been grown rather than built. Their hulls pulsed with the same purple light as the debris field. They moved through space like living creatures swimming through water. "Incoming transmission," reported the communications officer. But when the message played, it was not words or images. It was a sound that seemed to crawl into their minds, making everyone on the bridge feel hungry and afraid at the same time. "Get us out of here," Seung-min ordered. "Maximum speed." But as the New Horizon tried to escape, they discovered that the alien ships were faster, much faster. One of the organic vessels swept alongside them, and something like a tentacle reached out to touch their hull. The moment the alien ship made contact, every human on the bridge screamed. Images flooded their minds, visions of worlds stripped of all life, of species consumed down to their DNA, of an endless hunger that could never be satisfied. Only the alien crew members seemed unaffected, but they were staring at the screens, in terror. "Captain," gasped Hewan, blood running from her nose. "The aliens on our crew, they are going insane. Whatever this thing is doing to our minds, it is worse for them." Sung-min forced himself to think through the pain. The organic ships were not trying to destroy them. They were studying them, learning about them. "All power to engines," he managed to say. "Break contact now." The New Horizon tore free of the alien ship's grip and jumped into hyperspace just as more of the organic vessels arrived. But Sung-min knew they had not escaped. They had been allowed to leave. The creatures wanted them to report back to the Federation. They wanted their prey to know they were coming. When the New Horizons report reached Federation headquarters, it caused panic among the leadership. Do-hyun called an emergency meeting of all senior staff and the leaders of every member species. Dr. Soo-jin presented her findings from the Council archives. The ancient records matched what Sung-min's team had discovered perfectly. The Devourers had returned. "How long do we have?" asked Do-hyun. "Based on their rate of advance through the outer rim," calculated General So-jin, "they will reach our core systems within 6 months. Can we fight them?" asked Admiral Min-ho. Soo-jin shook her head. "The old records are clear. Military resistance is useless. Their bioships adapt to any weapon used against them. Their psychic attacks drive most species insane. The few survivors of the last encounter only lived because they hid." "We are not hiding," said Do-hyun firmly. "We just spent years fighting for freedom. We will not crawl into caves and wait for monsters to get bored." "Then we will all die," replied Ambassador Yujin quietly. "The mathematical analysis is clear. No known technology can stop them." The room fell silent as the reality sank in. The Federation had defeated the Council and the Hegemony through human tactics and determination. But this enemy was beyond anything they had ever faced. "There has to be something," said Engineer Nari. "Some weakness we can exploit." "The only weakness mentioned in the records is time," Soo-jin said. "They feed for a few thousand years, then go back into hibernation. If we could somehow survive that long, millions of worlds would die," Do-hyun said. "Billions of sentient beings. That is not survival, that is surrender." As the meeting continued, reports kept coming in from the outer rim. More systems were going dark. The survey ships that managed to escape described the same horrifying scene: entire worlds stripped of life, stars drained of energy, and the organic ships growing larger and more numerous with each system they consumed. But there was one detail that gave Do-hyun hope. In every report, the human crew members had been the last to break under the psychic attacks. They had been affected, but not as badly as the aliens. "Why are human minds different?" he asked Soo-jin. "I do not know," the xenoarchaeologist replied, "but the old records mention it. Humans seem to have some natural resistance to their mental weapons." Do-hyun looked around the room at his staff. These people had followed him through impossible situations before. They had found ways to defeat enemies that should have been unbeatable. "Then we use that," he said. "We find out why humans can resist them, and we use it to save the galaxy." Outside the meeting room, the first refugees were already arriving from the outer rim systems. Families who had lost their homes, survivors who had seen their worlds consumed. They looked to the Federation for protection. Do-hyun stood at the window watching the refugee ships landing. Somewhere out there in the dark between stars, ancient predators were awakening from their long sleep. They were hungry, and they were coming. But humanity had never been very good at accepting the impossible. They had defeated slavery, conquered their oppressors, and built a free galaxy from the ashes of tyranny. Now they would find a way to defeat the darkness itself. The sky above Earth was black with devourer ships. Supreme Commander Lee Do-hyun stood in the Federation's main command bunker, watching the tactical display show the reality of their situation. 3 million organic vessels surrounded Earth, each one the size of a city and pulsing with that horrible purple light. The combined might of every civilized species in the galaxy had been reduced to this, humanity's home world, and less than 1,000 ships to defend it. Final count? Do-hyun asked Admiral Minho. 847 Federation vessels, Minho replied, plus about 200 civilian ships that refused to evacuate. His voice was steady, but Do-hyun could see the fear in his friend's eyes. In the 3 months since the Devourers had emerged from the Outer Rim, they had consumed over half the galaxy. Not conquered, consumed. Entire star systems had been drained of all biological matter and energy. Worlds that had existed for billions of years were now nothing but floating rocks in dead space. The Federation had tried everything. Their best weapons barely scratched the organic hulls of the Devourer ships. Conventional tactics failed because the enemy did not think like any known species. They were not trying to control territory or defeat armies. They were simply eating everything in their path. Worse, their psychic attacks had driven most alien species insane within minutes of contact. Only humans seemed able to resist their mental influence for any length of time, and even they were affected. Do-hyun had watched strong officers collapse in screaming fits after just brief exposure to Devourer broadcasts. How long until they attack? Asked Chief Scientist Park So-jin. The former rebel had spent weeks working on humanity's last desperate plan. They are taking their time, observed Captain Jin Min-seo, Do-hyun's daughter, and now one of the Federation's youngest ship. Commanders. They know we cannot escape. Do-hyun nodded grimly. The Devourers were intelligent. They had learned from their previous visits to this galaxy. This time, they were being thorough. No species would survive by hiding. No world would escape their hunger, but they had made one mistake. They had saved Earth for last, thinking it would be an easy final meal. They did not understand what humans were capable of when they had nothing left to lose. Status on Operation Prometheus? Do-hyun asked So-jin. All teams are in position, she replied. We have boarding pods ready on 300 ships. Each pod contains a squad of humans and the neural interface devices. Over the past month, So-jin had made the most important discovery in human history. While studying captured Devourer tissue samples, she had found that human brain patterns could actually poison their collective consciousness. When a human mind was connected directly to a Devourer biochip through the neural interfaces she had developed, it created a cascade failure in the creature's nervous system. The process was fatal to the human involved, but it could destroy an entire Devourer vessel. The volunteers? Do-hyun asked quietly. Over 10,000 applications, replied General Kang Jae-wook. The old soldier had volunteered to lead the first wave himself. We had to turn people away. Do-hyun felt a mixture of pride and sorrow. Humans from across the galaxy had volunteered for suicide missions to save species that had once enslaved them. Former miners, ex-rebels, scientists, soldiers, civilians, all willing to die for a chance to stop the Devourers. Sir, called out Communications Officer Yoon Nari, the Devourers are beginning their final approach. On the main screen, the mass of organic ships began to move toward Earth like a living tide. Each vessel pulsed with hunger, and the psychic pressure they generated was almost overwhelming even through the command bunker's shielding. All Federation ships, this is Supreme Commander Do-hyun, he broadcast to the fleet. Today we face an enemy that has devoured galaxies. They think we are just another meal. They are wrong. He paused, looking around the bunker at the faces of humans and aliens who had chosen to make their last stand together. 3 years ago, we were slaves. Today, we are the guardians of all free life in this galaxy. Whatever happens in the next few hours, remember that we chose to fight rather than surrender. We chose to stand rather than kneel. The first wave of Devourer ships reached Earth's orbital defenses. The Federation's weapons opened fire, their energy beams creating brief flashes of light against the dark hulls of the organic vessels. Some damage was inflicted, But the bioships began to heal almost immediately. Then the Devourers responded with their psychic attack. The mental assault hit every conscious mind in the Earth system, like a tsunami of pure hunger and despair. On dozens of ships, alien crew members collapsed screaming. Even the humans staggered under the psychic pressure, but they did not break. "Now," Do-hyun commanded, "launch Operation Prometheus." 300 Federation ships charged directly into the heart of the Devourer fleet. It looked like suicide, and to most of the crews it was. But their goal was not victory through firepower. Their goal was to get close enough for the boarding pods to attach to the organic hulls. Captain Jin Min-seo led her ship, Freedom's Dawn, straight at a massive Devourer vessel that dwarfed her cruiser. Behind her flew a dozen smaller ships, all of them carrying boarding pods loaded with human volunteers. "Psychic attack incoming," warned her science officer, a young human named Park Hyun-woo. "It is strong." The mental assault hit them like a physical blow. Images of consumption and death flooded their minds. Min-seo felt the overwhelming hunger of the Devourers, their need to feed and grow and spread. But underneath the alien thoughts, she held on to something the Devourers could not understand: the human refusal to give up. "Launching boarding pods," she reported as her ship flew directly under the Devourer vessel's hull. The pods burst from her ship like bullets, each one guided by human pilots who knew they would never return home. They struck the organic hull and burrowed inside, carrying their precious cargo of neural interface devices and human minds. Inside Devourer Ship Alpha 7, Sergeant Kim Tae-ho led his squad through corridors that pulsed like the inside of a living heart. The walls were covered with what looked like veins carrying glowing fluid. The air itself seemed alive. "Target ahead," reported his second-in-command, a young woman named Lee Soo-yeon. They had reached the ship's neural center, a massive chamber, filled with branching nerve structures that controlled the biovessel's functions. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, like the inside of an alien brain. "Set up the interfaces," Tae-ho ordered. His team attached the neural devices to the main nerve clusters while the Devourer ship's immune system began to respond. Antibody creatures that looked like flying jellyfish descended from the ceiling, trying to protect their host. "Sir, they are adapting," Soo-yeon warned as she fired her energy rifle at the attacking organisms. "The ship knows we are here, then we better hurry," Tae-ho replied as he connected his own mind to the neural interface. The moment the connection was made, Tae-ho's consciousness was flooded with the Devourer's thoughts. He experienced 50 million years of hunger, of consuming entire civilizations, of the endless need to feed and grow. The alien mind was vast and ancient and utterly without mercy, but Tae-ho's human mind fought back. He thought of Colony 7, of the children who had died there. He thought of the free galaxy they had built, of species working together as equals. He thought of hope and love and all the things the Devourers could never understand. The bioship convulsed as human thoughts infected its collective consciousness. Tae-ho felt his own mind burning away under the strain, but he held on long enough to feel the ship's neural network collapse. Across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out as hundreds of human volunteers sacrificed themselves to poison the Devourer fleet from within. One by one, the massive bioships began to fail as human minds proved toxic to their collective consciousness. But there were still millions of Devourers, and the humans were running out of volunteers. Do-hyun watched the tactical display with a mixture of hope and despair. Operation Prometheus was working. They had destroyed over 1,000 Devourer ships. But the main fleet was adapting. The newer biovessels seemed to be developing immunity to the neural poisoning. "They are learning," observed Sojin. "Each ship we destroy teaches them how to resist. Then we need to hit them all at once," Do-hyun said. He made a decision that he had hoped would not be necessary. Activate the Earth defense grid. Across Earth's continents, massive neural transmitters began to power up. Sojin had built them in secret over the past month, connecting them to the planet's population through the global communication network. If her calculations were correct, the combined mental pattern of Earth's 8 billion humans could be broadcast directly into space. It would turn every human on Earth into a weapon, and it would kill them all. Sir? Yujin said quietly. Are you sure about this? Do-hyun looked at the tactical display one more time. The Devourers had recovered from the boarding attacks and were continuing their advance toward Earth. In a few more hours, they would strip the planet of all life anyway. Do it, he commanded. The neural transmitters activated simultaneously across Earth's surface. 8 billion human minds suddenly connected into a single massive network. The psychic shockwave that erupted from the planet struck the Devourer fleet like a hammer blow.